A mother bobcat stepped onto Rojo's back porch and stared straight through his patio door with the unmistakable look of a mother who had come for her children. Inside, 4 tiny bobcat kittens were curled together in a wicker basket lined with old vacation towels, sleeping soundly on the kitchen floor. The mother bobcat began picking up her kittens one by one and carrying them away. Rojo watched in awe and relief. But how did 4 wild bobcat kittens end up inside a retired mailman's home? And why was this wild mother trusting him with the most precious thing she had? Stick around, because this story isn't just about a rescue. It's about a delivery mission this old mailman never expected to make. Before we start, hit the like button and make sure to subscribe if you haven't. And hit that notification bell so that you won't miss any new stories. The Colorado morning broke golden and clean over the forested hills outside Estes Park, spilling warm light through the patio door of Rojo Gallagher's modest mountain home. The sky was the kind of impossible blue that only the Rocky Mountain West could produce, so vivid it almost looked painted. And the air smelled of pine needles and damp granite and the first gentle warmth of a new day. Rojo stood frozen behind his patio door, a cup of coffee growing cold in his hand, his 71-year-old heart hammering like a bass drum in a 4th of July parade. Because there, standing on his back porch in a slant of golden sunlight, was a full-grown female bobcat. She was magnificent. Tawny fur dappled with dark rosettes, tufted ears that swiveled like tiny satellite dishes. Eyes the color of burnt copper, staring directly at his house with a focus that could only be described as maternal impatience. A look Rojo had seen before, mostly from his late wife, Margaret, whenever he'd kept the grandkids out past their bedtime. The bobcat let out a low, rumbling chirp. Not quite a meow, not quite a growl, something primal and ancient that vibrated through the glass door and settled right into Rojo's chest. She was here for her babies, and that meant the wildest, most exhausting, most unexpectedly beautiful night of Rojo's entire life was finally about to come to an end. It had started roughly 14 hours earlier, in a much less dignified fashion. Rojo had been sound asleep in his recliner. Not in his bed, mind you, because at 71, a man earns the right to fall asleep wherever the television puts him down, when a noise jolted him awake. It wasn't a crash or a bang. It was a scratching. Frantic, persistent, determined scratching, like someone was trying to sand down his bathroom door from the inside. He sat up, blinking. The TV was playing a late-night infomercial about some kind of miracle mop. The house was otherwise still, but the scratching continued. "If that's a raccoon again," he muttered, pushing himself up from the recliner with a grunt. "I swear to the Lord above." He'd had an incident with a raccoon the previous spring. The bandit-faced creature had gotten into his trash, then somehow managed to open his screen door, and Rojo had found it sitting in his kitchen at 2 in the morning, eating leftover pot roast with an expression that suggested it paid rent. But this wasn't the kitchen. This was the bathroom, the guest bathroom down the hall, the one nobody ever used, the one with the temperamental vent that he kept meaning to fix and never did. Rojo shuffled down the hallway in his slippers, flipped on the hall light and pressed his ear to the bathroom door. The scratching stopped. Then he heard it. A tiny, high-pitched mewling sound. Then another. Then a whole chorus of them. "What in the—" He opened the door, and 4 pairs of wild, luminous eyes stared back at him from behind the toilet. They were kittens, but not the domestic kind. Even in his sleep-addled, slightly panicked state, Rojo recognized them immediately. Bobcat kittens. Tiny, spotted, round-eared, with oversized paws and tails that looked like they'd been dipped in ink. They were huddled together in a trembling pile on the bathroom rug, surrounded by shredded toilet paper, because of course they'd found the toilet paper, and one of them had somehow gotten tangled in the shower curtain. "Oh, you have got to be kidding me," Rojo whispered. The kittens stared at him. He stared at the kittens. The one tangled in the shower curtain let out an indignant squeak, as if to say, "Well, are you going to help, or are you just going to stand there?" The vent. It had to be the vent. Rojo had noticed months ago that the external cover was loose, and the vent duct ran down to a gap near the foundation where critters sometimes sheltered from the heat. The mother must have been using the crawl space under the house as a temporary den, and the kittens, curious, fearless, and spectacularly stupid in the way that all babies are spectacularly stupid, had climbed up through the ductwork and tumbled right into his guest bathroom. The question was, where was the mother? Rojo stepped carefully past the kitten pile, earning himself a symphony of hisses that sounded about as threatening as a leaky bicycle tire, and checked the vent. Sure enough, the interior grate had been pushed loose. He could see claw marks on the metal duct, but the opening was far too small for an adult bobcat. Only the kittens could have fit through. He went outside with a flashlight, wearing his bathrobe and slippers because Dignity had left the building hours ago, and checked around the foundation. No sign of the mother. No tracks, no sounds, nothing. He waited 10 minutes. 15. 20. The mountain night was vast and silent and offered no answers. Back inside, the kittens had rearranged themselves. 3 of them were now sitting in his bathtub looking confused. The 4th, the shower curtain adventurer, had discovered the bath mat and was attempting to wrestle it into submission. Rojo sat down on the closed toilet lid and rubbed his face. "Okay," he said to the kittens. "Okay, your mama's not here, so I guess it's just us for now." 4 pairs of wild eyes blinked at him. "Don't look at me like that," he said. "I didn't invite you." Now Rojo Gallagher was many things. A retired postal carrier, a widower of 6 years, a grandfather of 4, a man who could fix a leaky faucet but not a smartphone. But he was not a wildlife expert. However, he was a man who had lived in the Colorado high country for 43 years, and he knew a few things. He knew you don't handle wild animals with bare hands. He knew baby animals need warmth. And he knew that the internet, for all its foolishness, could probably tell him how to keep 4 tiny bobcat kittens alive until morning. He retrieved his reading glasses, opened his laptop at the kitchen table, and typed, very carefully with 2 index fingers, "What to do if you find baby bobcats in your house." The internet, as it turned out, had a great deal to say on the subject, most of it contradictory. But the general consensus seemed to be, keep them warm, keep them calm, don't try to feed them cow's milk, and call a wildlife rehabilitator in the morning. "Warm and calm," Rojo repeated. "I can do warm and calm." He went to the hall closet and pulled out a stack of old towels, the kind Margaret had always threatened to throw away but never did. The soft, faded ones with little seashell patterns from their Myrtle Beach vacation in 1994. He folded them into a nest inside a cardboard box, creating what he hoped looked vaguely den-like. Then he placed the box in the bathroom, turned off the overhead light, and left just the small nightlight plugged in near the sink. Getting the kittens into the box was another matter entirely. The first kitten, the one who'd been fighting the bath mat, went willingly enough. Rojo scooped it up with a towel-wrapped hand, and it gave him a look of pure disdain, but allowed itself to be deposited into the box without incident. The second kitten bit him through the towel. "Ow! You little—" Rojo pulled his hand back and examined the damage. No blood, just a tiny set of tooth marks that would make a great story at the hardware store. "Fine, you've got spirit. Noted." The third kitten had climbed on top of the toilet tank and refused to come down. Rojo had to coax it with a piece of string he pulled from the towel, dragging it slowly across the tile floor until the kitten's predatory instincts overrode its suspicion, and it pounced directly into the box. "Ha!" Rojo said, feeling unreasonably proud of himself. The fourth kitten, the smallest one, the runt, was still in the bathtub. It hadn't moved since Rojo had returned. It was just sitting there, looking up at him with eyes that were way too big for its face, shivering slightly. Rojo's heart, which was already well past its recommended capacity for excitement that evening, did something complicated. "Hey there, little one," he said softly. He reached into the tub slowly, letting the kitten see his hand coming. It didn't hiss, it didn't bite. It just stared at him, trembling, with that look that every parent in the world recognizes. The look that says, "I'm scared, and I don't know what's happening, and I need someone to make it okay." Rojo picked it up gently, wrapping it in the warm towel and held it against his chest. He could feel its tiny heartbeat, fast as a hummingbird's wings. "It's all right," he murmured. "I've got you. It's all right." The kitten let out a single soft mew. Then it tucked its head under his chin and stopped shivering. Rojo stood there in his guest bathroom at 2:30 in the morning, in his bathrobe and seashell towels, holding a baby bobcat against his heart, and thought, Margaret would have absolutely loved this. He didn't sleep. Not really. He dozed in the kitchen chair with his laptop open to an article titled, "Emergency Care for Orphaned Bobcat Kittens," and his ears tuned to every sound from the bathroom. Around 3:30, the kittens started crying, a pitiful, high-pitched wailing that sounded like 4 tiny violins being played very badly. They were hungry. The article said no cow's milk. It said kitten milk replacer was the best option, but since Rojo did not have kitten milk replacer at 3:30 in the morning, shockingly, it was not something he kept in the pantry next to the baked beans. He had to improvise. The article suggested a temporary emergency formula, a mix of goat's milk and a little bit of plain yogurt, warm to body temperature. Rojo did have goat's milk. His neighbor, Dorothy Perkins, kept goats, 3 cantankerous dairy goats named after the Andrews sisters, and she was always trying to foist their milk on everyone in the neighborhood. Rojo had a half-gallon in his fridge that he'd accepted 2 days ago out of pure politeness. "Thank you, Dorothy," he whispered to the ceiling. "Thank you, Maxine, Patty, and Laverne." He warmed the mixture, tested it on his wrist the way his mother had shown him with baby bottles 50 years ago, and carried it to the bathroom in a small glass with a medicine dropper he'd found in the junk drawer. The kittens were skeptical. The big one, the one who'd bitten him, sniffed the dropper and turned away with the air of a food critic who'd been served gas station sushi. The third one batted the dropper out of Rojo's hand and watched it roll across the floor with evident satisfaction. The bath mat wrestler licked the tip once, sneezed violently, and retreated to the back of the box. But the little one, the runt, the one who'd tucked its head under his chin, climbed up onto Rojo's hand, latched onto the dropper, and began to drink. And one by one, watching their smallest sibling nurse contentedly from the strange big creature's hand, the other kittens crept forward. The biter came first, because apparently hunger outranked pride. Then the bath mat wrestler. Then the string chaser, who had to be the most dramatic about it, approaching the dropper like it was a live grenade before finally accepting a few drops. Rojo fed them slowly, patiently, refilling the dropper again and again. And by 4:15 in the morning, all 4 kittens were fed, warm, and arranged in the towel nest in a configuration that looked like a spotted, purring cinnamon roll. He sat on the bathroom floor with his back against the wall and watched them sleep. "I'm not naming you," he told them firmly. "Don't get any ideas. This is temporary." The biter yawned in its sleep, showing tiny white teeth. "I mean it," Rojo said. But even without names, he couldn't help noticing how different they were. The big one, the biter, was clearly the protector. Even in sleep, it positioned itself on the outside of the pile, ears twitching at every sound. Whenever Rojo shifted his weight or the house creaked, the biter's eyes would snap open, scanning for threats before it settled back down. It was the first to hiss and the last to relax. The bath mat wrestler was the clown. Even half asleep, it kept reaching out a paw to bat at imaginary things. Dust motes, shadows, possibly the ghosts of bath mats past. It had an energy that suggested it would one day be the kind of bobcat that chased its own tail off a cliff and then looked surprised about it. The string chaser was the loner. It slept slightly apart from the pile, independent even in unconsciousness. It was the most beautiful of the 4, with especially vivid markings and a calm, watchful quality that reminded Rojo of the mountains themselves. Patient, self-contained, and ancient. And the runt, the little one, was pure heart. It was the smallest by far, the weakest, the one that probably would have been the first to go if Rojo hadn't found them. But it was also the bravest in its own quiet way. It had been the first to trust him, the first to eat, the first to climb onto his hand as if to say, "I choose you. You seem safe." "No names," Rojo whispered. "Absolutely not." But in his mind, where nobody could hear, he was already calling them the guard, the goofball, the ghost, and the little one. Dawn came slowly, the way it does in the mountains. First a pale lavender blush along the eastern ridgeline, then a ribbon of tangerine along the peaks, then the whole sky opening up like a gift, blue and immense and shining. Rojo made coffee, called the Estes Park Wildlife Rescue Hotline, and got a voicemail. He left a message, then called Dorothy Perkins next door because Dorothy knew everything about everything and wasn't shy about sharing. "Bobcats?" Dorothy said, sounding delighted rather than alarmed, which was very Dorothy. "In your bathroom? Oh, Rojo, that's wonderful. How many?" "4, and I wouldn't call it wonderful, Dorothy. I'd call it terrifying." "Nonsense, it's a sign. You know the native people around here say the bobcat is a..." "Dorothy, focus. What do I do?" "Keep them warm, keep them quiet, and wait. If the mother's alive, she'll come looking. Bobcat mothers don't abandon their young easily. Something probably spooked her. A coyote, maybe, or that ridiculous dog of the Hendersons, and she'll circle back when it's safe. And if she doesn't? Then you call the Wildlife Center in Fort Collins. But give her time, Rojo. Give her the morning." So Rojo gave her the morning. He checked on the kittens every 20 minutes, which was probably excessive, but he figured if he was going to be an accidental foster father to 4 wild predators, he was going to be a conscientious one. The kittens had woken up and were exploring the bathroom with the fearless intensity of tiny Lewis and Clarks. The goofball had discovered the toilet brush and was attempting to drag it under the sink. The guard was posted on top of the towel box, keeping watch. The ghost sat in the windowsill, staring out at the pine forest with an expression that suggested deep philosophical contemplation. Or possibly just the desire to eat a chipmunk. And the little one had figured out how to open the bathroom cabinet and was sitting inside it among the cleaning supplies, looking extremely pleased with itself. "Out," Rojo said, gently extracting the kitten from behind a bottle of tile cleaner. "That's not a den. That's a health hazard." The little one chirped at him, a small, bright sound like a question, and climbed up his arm to sit on his shoulder. Rojo stood very still, feeling the tiny weight of it, the tickle of whiskers against his ear. "I'm still not naming you," he said. The little one purred. At 7:45 in the morning, Rojo was sitting at his kitchen table, trying to eat a piece of toast and failing because he kept getting up to check the porch when he saw her. The mother bobcat. She came out of the tree line to the east, moving with that liquid, purposeful grace that cats have and humans can only dream about. She was bigger than he'd expected, maybe 30 pounds, with powerful haunches and a coat that glowed amber in the morning light. She crossed the yard in long, deliberate strides, stepping between granite boulders and fallen pine needles, pausing every few steps to scent the air, her nose working, her tufted ears rotating. She knew. She could smell them. Rojo's hands were shaking. He set down his toast, went to the bathroom, and looked at the 4 kittens. They were awake, tumbling over each other in the towel box, oblivious to the fact that their entire world was about to change again. "Your mama's here," he said quietly. He grabbed the old wicker laundry basket from the hall closet, the big oval one Margaret had bought at a craft fair in Durango years ago, and lined it with the softest towel he had. Then he scooped the kittens up, 2 at a time, and settled them into the basket. The guard hissed. The goofball tried to climb out immediately and had to be placed back twice. The ghost went completely limp and played dead, which was either a survival strategy or pure laziness. The little one clung to his shirt for a moment before letting go. He set the wicker basket on the floor right next to the patio door, where the morning sun streamed through the glass and pooled golden and warm across the towel. The kittens, exhausted from their long night, curled into each other inside the basket. 4 spotted bodies nestled together in the soft lining like they'd been poured there, their tiny sides rising and falling in unison. Then Rojo slid the patio door open just wide enough for a bobcat to walk through, stepped back into the kitchen, and watched from a distance. The mother bobcat approached the patio slowly. Not cautiously. Bobcats are many things, but cautious isn't usually one of them. But deliberately. She knew exactly what she was doing. She'd probably done this before, carried kittens from den to den, staying one step ahead of predators and weather and all the dangers of the wild. She stepped onto the wooden deck, her big paws silent on the planks, the pine forest and granite boulders of the hillside rising behind her like a painting. She paused at the open door and let out that sound again. The low, rumbling chirp, the mother call that vibrated through Rojo's chest even from across the room. And from the wicker basket, 4 tiny voices answered. The kittens went berserk, scrambling, mewling, falling over each other in the basket, their little paws scrabbling against the wicker sides. The guard was the first to stand up, ears forward, alert. Then the goofball, tumbling against its siblings and nearly tipping the whole basket over. The ghost raised its head silently, appearing from the pile like a small spotted phantom. The little one was last to stir. It lifted its head from the towel, blinking sleepily, and looked toward the open door where the mother stood silhouetted against the bright mountain morning. Then the little one turned and looked back, past the basket's wicker rim, across the sunlit floor, toward the kitchen, where Rojo stood very still beside the counter. And for one moment, one brief, shining moment in the clear Colorado morning, the littlest bobcat kitten and the old postal carrier looked at each other across the room, and something passed between them that neither one could have named. Then the little one turned and mewed at its mother. The mother bobcat stepped through the open door and into the house, calm as anything, as if she walked into human kitchens every day of her life. She went straight to the wicker basket, lowered her head, and sniffed each kitten in turn. A thorough, no-nonsense inspection that every mother in every species would recognize. Then she picked up the guard first, gripping the scruff of its neck with practiced gentleness, the kitten's body curling instinctively into a compact bundle. She carried it out the patio door, across the wooden deck, and disappeared into the ponderosa pines. She returned in 3 minutes and leaned into the basket for the goofball, who kicked its legs the entire way out the door and looked distinctly offended. The ghost went next, dangling serenely from its mother's mouth like it had all the time in the world. Then she came back for the little one. The smallest kitten was sitting upright in the now empty basket, the towel bunched around it, waiting. When the mother arrived at the basket's edge, the little one didn't need to be picked up right away. It stood, bumped its head against its mother's chin in the universal cat gesture of, "I missed you." And then the mother gently took it by the scruff. The two of them crossed the sunlit floor, passed through the open patio door, and walked off together into the golden morning light. The pine forest swallowing them softly, the mountain peaks glowing overhead. Rojo watched until they disappeared into the ponderosa pines, until the forest swallowed them up like it swallows everything, gently, completely, the way the mountains have been doing for 1,000,000 years. Then he sat down heavily on the kitchen floor, right there by the patio door, because his legs didn't seem interested in holding him up anymore. He didn't cry. Rojo Gallagher was not, by his own estimation, much of a crier. But he did take off his glasses and press the heels of his hands against his eyes for a long time, and his breathing was a little unsteady. And if anyone had asked, he would have blamed it on allergies. The house was quiet again. Just Rojo and his cold coffee, and the television still playing infomercials in the living room. The bathroom still had shredded toilet paper on the floor and tiny claw marks on the bath mat. The seashell towels from Myrtle Beach were covered in bobcat fur. He left them where they were for a while. He wasn't ready to clean up just yet. At 9 o'clock, he called Dorothy. "She came," he said. "The mother. She came and took them all." "Of course she did," Dorothy said warmly. "I told you, bobcat mothers always come back." "Yeah," Rojo said. "Yeah, they do." He hung up, poured himself a fresh cup of coffee, and walked out onto the porch. The morning was fully awake now, the sun climbing high and warm above the peaks, the forest shimmering with light. He could see red-tailed hawks circling in the distance, and somewhere in the pines, a Steller's jay was calling. On the floor by the patio door, right where the wicker basket had been, he noticed something. A few tufts of soft kitten fur caught on the basket's weave, and 4 tiny muddy paw prints on the wooden deck, heading off toward the pines. Rojo Gallagher sat down in his porch chair, sipped his coffee, and smiled. He'd spent 40 years delivering mail, carrying other people's letters and packages and birthday cards and love notes from one place to another, making sure precious things got where they were supposed to go. And last night, in his bathrobe and slippers with a medicine dropper and some goat's milk and a stack of old vacation towels, he'd done it one more time. He'd carried something precious through the night and delivered it safely home. The mountains stretched out before him, ancient and golden and full of hidden life. And somewhere out there, a mother bobcat was settling her 4 kittens into a new den, warm and fed and alive, because a retired mailman in Estes Park, Colorado, had opened a bathroom door at 2 in the morning and decided to care. The sun climbed higher. The coffee was good. The morning was bright and clean and full of the quiet, enormous miracle of ordinary kindness. And Rojo Gallagher, who was not much of a crier, wiped his eyes one more time and sat in the light and was content.